Hi, Susie here, and today I'd like to talk to you about guitar slides and the problems I've had trying to find one that fits. So hopefully anybody with small fingers, this is going to be of some use to you. It's not meant to be the definitive guide to choosing a guitar slide. I'm not really going to go into the different materials. I'll mention it a little bit, but that's not the point of this. It's simply just trying to find one that fits if you happen to have small fingers. Now, a disclaimer. Having said all that, I don't have particularly small fingers. I'm tall, I've got quite long fingers. My ring size is size P. This is British sizes. And I understand from good old internet that the most common women's size is size M, and the most common men's size is size T. So I sit at the top end of women's sizes, and then men's size is a size R to U. So I'm kind of just sort of at the top end of the lower half of the spectrum of ring sizes. So I wouldn't say I've got particularly small fingers, but I've had real problems trying to find a slide that fits. So if I take you through my history of slides, this is my chronological history of slide buying. This is the first one I ever bought. Now this is a Dunlop 224. It's a brass slide, as I'm sure is obvious, and it's got an internal diameter of 22 millimeters. And the reason I bought this was, rather than thinking too much about the size of the slide I wanted to buy, I was more concerned with what material, and I tried a glass slide, and this was the only brass slide that the shop had, and I liked the sound of this. It had a more of a sort of brightness and a depth. I said I wasn't going to go into the materials, but that seemed to be the best slide at the time. And I didn't really think about the fit, but it's just way too big for me. I want a slide that sits on my knuckle, not like that, because I need to damp the strings behind the slide, and I can't do that with it all the way on. I want it there, which I think is how a lot of people, at least people who use their ring finger for slide playing, play. So it's much easier to damp the strings when it's just at the knuckle. So that's the brass slide, and it just kept falling off. It won't stay on. So the next slide I bought was this one. I have no idea what make this is. I think it's a guy who just takes wine bottles. I think this is literally a bottleneck. I think he just takes the tops off wine bottles, smooths them down, and sells them at the local guitar shop. And it seems well made. It's got no sharp edges. And it's better, but still, it just goes straight over the finger. It doesn't sit at the knuckle. It is tapered, being a bottleneck, but even so, it still drops over my knuckle. Now I measured this, and it's 19 millimeters at the small end and 20 millimeters at the big end. So it's better, but it's not there. So back to the guitar shop, a different one this time, and I asked them for their smallest brass slide. So rather than sell me brass, they sold me this alloy slide because they felt that I needed something a little bit lighter. So this is a Dunlop alloy. I haven't got the model number, but it's a 19 millimeter internal diameter. I've measured it. It's actually a little bit more than 19 millimeters, but again, it drops over the knuckle. No good. But I bought it. More for me. Knocked him down to £10, so it wasn't too expensive. So back to another guitar shop. This time they did have a brass slide that they were willing to sell me. This is nominally the same size as this, but actually it measures slightly smaller. This is a Dunlop 222, and nominally 19 millimeters. This actually measures at just under 18.8. So we're getting better, but still it slides over my knuckle. Although it's starting to feel a bit tighter, but still not right. So I scoured the internet. I wanted a brass slide, and I wanted the smallest one I could find. And there's a company called Rock Slide. There we go. Rock slide. Songhurst guitars, rock slide. Now I can see the price on this. This was £18, so considerably more expensive, and I had to pay postage and packing, so I think the whole thing came to about £25, which is almost double. Well, it's more than double some of these. But it's an interesting one. It's tapered. It's not just a simple tube of brass. It has this cutaway, which is intended to fit around your joints so that you can move your finger easier. And it has a little half moon cutaway there, intended to sit better next to your other finger. But I believe this is intended for your little finger, the way it fits. That little cutaway is meant to fit up against the finger next to it when you're damping, and the cutaway at the bottom enables you to bend your finger easier. I want it to fit on my ring finger, and actually I find that it's almost perfect for my ring finger. The cutaway I don't really get because it's right up here and my finger doesn't seem to fit in it, not when I'm damping anyway. So maybe this isn't intended to sit on your ring finger, but this is their small size. But the best one I've found for a brass slide, and that's the Rock Slide Small. The problem is it's not wide enough. It's not wide enough to play the entire width of the neck, which in practice isn't such a problem because I tend to only play a group of strings. I don't tend to play across the whole neck, but you know, I might want to at some point, and I would prefer a slide that was the full width of the neck. So, another guitar shop, another month later, and I found this, which is the Johnny Winter Texas Slider. There we go. And it says on the back, sized for pinky slide playing. So again, this is not something that's marketed to be worn on your ring finger. This is supposed to be something for your pinky, for your little finger. It's the 286, Dunlop 286 Johnny Winter, and it's 17mm. Oh, by the way, I should have mentioned that this one, the Rock Slide, is 16mm at the big end and 13mm at the little end. It's tapered. This one's 17mm, so it's bigger, but actually for me that's fine. It sits nicely on my knuckle and it stays there. So almost perfect, but it's not brass, it's a chrome slide, and that can be a little bit too bright in some cases. When I'm playing high up the neck on the bass strings, I do find that a little bit bright, so I prefer in that situation a glass slide, and Dunlop do a 7. I was going to say they do a 17mm. This actually measures a little bit bigger at 17.5, but this is the Dunlop 212 glass slide. Again, it does fit on the knuckle. I thought that the two ends felt a little bit different. It feels as if it's a little bit tapered at this end, but maybe not. But it's more or less the same internal dimensions as the Johnny Winter. So that's not bad. I'm nearly there. So really, these are the three slides that I will use. Always good to have a spare. The good thing about this is half the price of some of the others. This is only about £6 or £7, I think. So quite good value for money, and good to have as a spare, or good if you want to have an alternative, use a glass slide for a different tone, perhaps a slightly warmer tone. So that's it. Please comment below if you found a smaller slide, because these are the smallest ones I've managed to find. I haven't found any smaller. Surely there must be smaller ones out there. I've got friends who are swamped by these. These, even though they're the smallest, they still rattle on their ring fingers, because clearly my fingers are bigger than some. I'm nearly 6 foot tall, and for somebody who's only 5 foot tall, these are still going to be way too big. But there doesn't seem to be anything out there. But comment if you do find one. So that's what I've got to say on the subject. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you later. Bye.